Okay, and we are live. Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Global Citizens. My name is Calvin. I'm the show's host and also its creator. My guest for today is Mr. Charles Henry Barton. So, Charles is actually one of the first person I've ever met when I actually first started networking in around 2018 or so, or is it late 2017? I can't remember after that. We've been in touch since then, and afterwards, yeah, I have the wonderful opportunity now since I created this show to invite him. So Charles is actually a naturopath. He teach people how you can actually handle diabetes in order for you to actually reverse it in a much more natural process. Am I correct to describe it as so, Charles?
Yeah, there's a lot of concern about saying you can reverse diabetes, but you can put into remission, you can improve the condition, you can get people to reduce their medication or take themselves off the medication. So I think we try and avoid reverse diabetes because that worries some doctors, and say we can help people to be healthier. And of course, along with diabetes, you can reduce blood pressure medication, sometimes cholesterol medication. You can improve their BMI, their weight levels. So it's a whole package because it helps people to be generally healthier, have more energy. Yeah.
All right. Okay, so for those of you who just tuned in to the show for the very first time, Global Citizens is a platform whereby I invite individuals who has experienced multicultural backgrounds, such as myself, a TCK, somebody who grew up overseas, or an expatriate and a nomad. So basically, all of those who have lived in different parts of the world that is away from their own passport. So why I actually invite such individual, it's because it's this. So there's the term called wanderlust, whereby people like to describe it when they are constantly traveling around. So while this actually do give exposure to a new kind of lifestyle, those who have lived in the different parts of the world need to adapt the positive and the negative, and they see the different parts of life. And as a result, this becomes a certain part of them. It forms their characteristic. So Charles, am I correct to describe your birth passport is UK? You lived in Zimbabwe once, United States, back to UK, Australia, and Canada, and now you're in Singapore. Is that correct? Or
Yeah, just about. I've got both Australian and English passports, but yes, so I've worked in most of those countries. Yeah.
fantastic. All right. So throughout your time outside of your birth passport, either in Australia, outside of Australia or UK, right? So what do you believe behavior or habit has most improved your life by spending time in the countries? As in, what kind of what kind of skills or characters that you have acquired from some of the different parts of the world you lived in?
Well, I think that living in other countries does broaden your perspectives. It broadens your awareness of the fact we're all human beings on this spinning planet together, and the inherent goodness you see in people from all different parts of the world. And so I'm a little narrow in my experience because most of the places I've worked have been ex-British colonies, so they have red mailboxes and things that make it look like you haven't really left the country. So I think that it's great because you are getting a whole lot of different perspectives over the years. And when you work in a country and really live there rather than go as on holiday, it gives you
Yeah.
a great grasp of the fact that Robert Mugabe was very charismatic in Zimbabwe, and then his wife died from kidney failure actually, and then he married a lady who loves buying shoes. So the whole spirit of the country was sadly affected by the personalities of the people in charge. So you can look at somewhere like Singapore with Lee Kuan Yew and so on. There are a whole lot of different places that you get a glimpse of and a grasp of. So I hope it's interesting to the people listening.
All right, Charles. So two areas that I want to focus with regards to your intercultural journey is Zimbabwe and Singapore. So the reason why is because most of the other parts of the country that you have been, I have covered in some part of which
Sure.
in my past episodes. Whereas for Singapore is a place that I hold very dear to my heart. I lived there for 15 years, and now I'm back in Indonesia. And I've never actually been in Zimbabwe, so that's somewhere I actually want to know. So, what was your experience in Zimbabwe for once, and for Singapore? Why do you actually decide to settle down? Because if I recall correctly, your wife is a Malay Singaporean.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So let's talk about Zimbabwe first then, since it's quite a while ago. I went there when it was just after it had become independent from British rule, and the system there was working very smoothly. They were the breadbasket of Africa. They were providing food for most Africa using European farmers, basically. And it's an incredibly beautiful country with one of the nicest climates in the world, much nicer than anywhere else I've lived. The main city is in Harare, is at 5,000 feet above sea level, so it gets up to about 22 degrees in the middle of the day and down to about 1 degree at night. So very pleasant climate, and the people there very, very generous and thankful, and greet you well and treat you with kindness. So both the local African people and the invaders from outside, the Brits and so on, all generally pretty nice people. So I enjoyed that experience. Of course, things were a little different from what I was used to in England. So you were meeting issues to do with the Afrikaan group, the colored people in Southern Africa. You were meeting issues to do with the discrepancy in pay between the whites and the blacks, and so on. So there are a whole lot of things that were interesting to observe.
Yeah, not to worry about that. Okay, so with Singapore, why did you finally decide to settle down there?
Okay, so Singapore, I come with a teaching background. I've been teaching in schools around the world. And coming to Singapore, I arrived in 1993, and for 8 years I taught in the government secondary schools, which was good because it was an expat deal and I got extra money and I was richer compared to where I've been working in other countries. So I spent the first 8 years there, and then I realized there were a lot of people who were making a lot of money out of going independent from the school system and running courses for the schools. So that's what I started a company in the year 2000, and I spent the last 15 years doing a lot of work educating people in the schools, both the teachers and the students. So the reason I stayed on in Singapore was partly because the economic opportunity for an educator was higher, and also, of course, because I married a Singaporean. Now, what was interesting, when I was living in Western Australia before I came here, a lot of people from Britain arrived in Western Australia to visit their family, and they thought, wow, beautiful beaches, I love this place. And so they would go back to England, sell their house, sell everything, move to Australia. And when they were in Western Australia after 6 months, they'd realize they missed their aunties and their family, and they'd pack everything up and go back to England. And then they say, England's too cold, and they'd pack everything up and go back to Australia. So I felt, hey, you should stay where the people are. And my wife's family are all in Singapore. So I thought, let's carry on and be here. And my daughters are 19 and 17 now. So although one of them's just started studying veterinary science in Perth. So that's the story of why I stayed in Singapore, mainly because it's where people are, not the place, that's so very important. Thanks, Calvin.
Does the interest in medical science run in your family?
You're back. Yeah.
Oh, sorry about that. Sorry. Okay, so does the interest in medical science run heavily in your family? I mean, you are focusing on diabetes. Your daughter is in veterinary science?
No, not really. It's just that I got interested in meditation and health and holistic health and stuff a long time ago. So I spent 3 years doing a diploma in naturopathy from Australia. And then I discovered there wasn't very much money I could make out of it. So I went back to the teaching. And then the last few years has been less work from the education field. So I thought, let's really get back into what my passion is, which is transforming health. And when I realized that transforming health was really possible, particularly in the area of obesity, because when someone is overweight, the moment you can actually, most diets don't work, but when you can actually get someone permanently to their optimum weight, so many chronic illnesses disappear, and people are in a lot more stable and energetic state, and they spend less time with suffering from illness. So basically, I feel that we could, there's a country called the United States you may have heard of. They have 70% of the adults are overweight. In Singapore, it's, you know, it's creeping up in that direction. So if we can prevent that now, and using the habits of health system I use, a lot of people can have major improvements in their condition.
All right. So how is it actually? Can you give us a little bit more insight on how you can assist one to actually assist with diabetes? It's because it has always been a prevalent problem. It's especially in today's society. It's because in Singapore's workplace, for example, is because even though they say you work from 9 to 5, it's definitely not 100% accurate. People will work until the late nights. I used to work in a bank, and I used to go home at around 11 p.m. So as a result, eating habits is not always going to be as what is recommended maybe by an influencer on YouTube. It's not always going to be healthy. So how would you actually, can you give us a little bit more insight on how you advise somebody who could potentially develop diabetes, and what would you recommend? Is it on the diet or exercise?
Yeah, that's a good leading question. So I'll see if I can answer it in a brief way that won't overload anybody.
Oh dear.
Diabetes is a lifetime patient. It'll keep it at bay, and this may make a difference. But in reality, the research shows something very, very different. I'm going to start by quoting you a program, a project which was carried out in the UK a few years ago. So, is it okay, Calvin, if I explain that as a lead into how people can get obesity or diabetes? Is that okay?
Sure.
So here we go. So can you still hear me, Calvin?
Hello. Yeah, I can hear you, Charles.
Hello. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So I'm here now, and I'm going to continue. So in 2017, there was a project for 7,000 diabetics in England. And what they did was they put them on a low carbohydrate diet, and they gave them coaching to guide them on how they can keep up avoiding too many carbohydrates, sugar and stuff. And after the 7,000 people had been on this program for something like a year, 69% of them had optimized their weight, and most of them had got off their medication, and it was a huge jump. It saved the National Health Service in England £6.9 million just for the 7,000 people. So when the National Health Service saw such an incredible change of health for nearly all the diabetics that were on the program, which is simply eating low carbohydrates, they spread it out in February last year. They said, okay, this can be available for all doctors in the UK. So I'm hoping the results in the UK will influence the rest of the world. And that's interesting. So how exactly can you actually get someone to eat low carbohydrates, not have a hankering for mee goreng or whatever it happens to be? So what we have a big American company, and he has been helping diabetics for 40 years. They focus on obesity, leading to improved readings on diabetes. So what they do is they say most people, particularly Singapore and places, are really on the go, rush all the time, and they never have time, as you intimated earlier, to eat properly. So if they're carrying in their bag about 30 different meals that they can have, so it could be something they put in a microwave for 90 seconds, or something that they take out of unwrap and eat.
Yep.
And they each of these nutritionally organized meals, 18 and 4 grams of food, only has 100 calories. Of the day, every 2 to 3 hours, they're eating this small meal, and then at another time they're having a lean and green meal, which is a meal that avoids any carbohydrates being added to it. And they start after the first 4 or 5 days to feel a lot more energy, and then they start to have sugar readings drop, everything improving, weight improves. And so that's how simple it is. If someone uses this scientifically designed food that's been around for 40 years but's been developed and improved, and they have coaching from people like me who encourage them to do all the other habits of health, all the other things that that count. So as I stand here, I'm just going to take the camera and show you the company that
Oh, okay.
Optavia.
Optavia.
And in the foreground you can see signs.
Yep, I saw the sign.
You can see them on the screen now.
Yep.
So these are all different things you can have, from wild rice and chicken flavored soup to whatever. So all Chinese green onion, what's it say, pancakes. So there are stuff in the Hawker Center. Then they end up seeing enough and getting enough sleep and everything. So I hope that give people a glimpse, because in reality there is almost no way in the world that anyone can optimize their weight and their health except by using something like this, where they don't have to think. When they just get slightly peckish after a couple of hours, they unwrap a bar, they eat it, and they know they've got the nutrition, the vitamins and minerals and fiber and so on, or probiotic all going in. Okay, Calvin, I hope that's not talking too much about it, but that's the main thing. And there's another element I use, which is intermittent, a lot of benefits of as well as what Optavia does. And Optavia is a huge company, $500 million turnover last year. It's top 10 in Google search, and it is on the New York Stock Exchange. When they announced they're coming to Singapore, their stock price went up 203%. So it's quite a big business, not a small thing.
Yep.
Growing fast.
All right, Charles. Okay, this may actually be outside of your niche, yeah? But how do you feel an individual? Because with the recent epidemic of the corona, I actually just read the news.
I can't hear what you're saying.
Oh, my apologies on that. Sorry, let me just. Are you able to hear me now, Charles?
Sorry, I'm using my phone and a few things you said, Calvin. I'm so sorry.
No worries, no worries. Charles, can you hear me now?
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
I can hear you now.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So with regards to the recent epidemic, sure. Okay, so with the recent epidemic of the coronavirus, yeah. So I actually just checked in the news. I think Singapore's number is now at 81. So with regards to this, I know it's outside of your realm of expertise, but do you feel that a healthy diet would help an individual's immune system to be better in order to combat such kind of unknown external causes such as this?
Vitamin C, for example, helps. So just to repeat that, because I'm not sure if you heard it, definitely if people are eating well, their whole nutritional footprint is changed, and it means that they have a better immune system and are stronger in many ways. And things like vitamin C in the food helps. And there are a lot of things that can make people a lot stronger and more able to handle the stresses of the respiratory infection. So, but you look at the statistics, people that are older tend to have more trouble, more fatalities. So what coronavirus needs, you need the person who's a bit older to have their nutritional strength higher, so they're going to be back in the lower chance of serious illness. And it's possible that over the next 5 years that the coronavirus will spread to every single corner and nook and cranny of the world, in which case the immune system and the strength of the body and the healthiness of the people is what will protect them from serious results of this horrible illness. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. When I first actually met you, at that time we were in a networking event. I believe it was at Lavender or something. So at that time, when you first started your career and until now, right? What kind of values and assistance from external parties could give in order for you to prosper or actually to continue keep doing what you're doing?
So to succeed in this business, you have to have a lot of entrepreneurial spirit and perseverance and belief in what you're doing as helping humanity. That's very strong. And if that's not strong, it's very difficult for people to keep going. And you have to move away from a hard sell idea that people must buy products from you all the time, and just concentrate on helping them to be successful. So that's the main element that I think is important for success in this field. And I think the caring business, where it's more important to you that you're offering something much more powerful to them than they're going to give you. You're giving them 20 or 30 years of better health, and they might pay you a few $100s, but the main thing is that their health improves. More people hear about it, and you get more people. You want to be helping hundreds of thousands of people theoretically. Okay.
Yeah, I think I can relate to that to a certain extent. I actually recently have somebody who want to be featured on my show to promote his real estate, but the thing is that doesn't even have a multicultural background, and he just wants to be able to come to the show to tell my audience, hey, we have a good property here in Singapore. So I think I can relate to a certain extent on that, because I actually don't use this in order to be able to make some kind of like an influencer lifestyle. I actually created this channel is because I was frustrated because because a working relationship of mine with an employer of other background actually didn't do well at that time. So yeah, I know exactly what you mean, Charles. All right.
Yeah.
So I believe you will be having a meeting soon. Yeah. So maybe if it's okay, I'll just wrap it up with this final question.
Yeah,
So,
great.
so first is, how would you advise your fellow countrymen, whether they are from UK or Australia, to be when they want to expand to another country? What do you think they need to adapt in the mindset? That's one. The second part of that is that I want you to imagine to back when you were younger and maybe you're living in the current society, and you have the opportunity now to, what would you actually advise your younger self to do? Maybe a type of book that you will read, or maybe what would you advise him, a younger Charles?
Okay, so that's a good question. So we'll talk books for a second. I think it's quite a good idea if people read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, because that puts across ideas about looking for opportunities. And another book I recommend to people who want to persevere and keep at something is a book by Jeff Olson. It's called The Slight Edge, which you can get free on the internet as a PDF. So I recommend The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson to everybody. It's an amazing book. The Rich Dad, Poor Dad's not so important. So that's the idea. Then if someone is thinking from England or Australia to look at expanding things here, and it's got a more potential over the next 20, 30 years than England or Australia might have. So I think people should be open-minded to coming and having a look, but of course culture will be different here, and you have to look at what people are really wanting. So you have to go to people and say, what do you want? And if you're thinking of starting a business here, you shouldn't guess that the service that you provide will be wanted in Asia, you have to go and talk to people and find out. So come and talk to people first is my recommendation.
That's a really good advice actually. And also please don't fall in love with your product. I know some of you work hard to create it, and maybe in your own home country it worked efficiently, but if you move to a new country and if you still use the same concept, it might not work to its full benefit. In fact, my former employer is actually British, and he utilized an on-hold marketing system, which actually is not a bad concept, but at that time, it's not something that was recommended to start at the tail end of a year. That's one. And two, well, at that time, you can't really expect quick results. Am I correct to say that, Charles?
Yeah, that's right. I think things have to build up gradually, so people should have a year or two of income while they're trying to start something new in another country. Otherwise, they'll be frustrated. And remember that 90% of new businesses fail in the first 5 years, and then the next 5 years. So it's a matter of finding the right niche, the right market. That's my advice.
All right. Okay, so Charles, do you have anything you want to tell to my audience? Maybe, like, let's say maybe an upcoming courses or lesson, or maybe even advice on how one can, aside from contacting you for diabetics, or maybe anything you want to tell to the audience or something that you are currently doing?
Something which might be useful to an audience all over the world is that I do a free 15-minute health consultation over WhatsApp video chat or Messenger or whatever, Zoom call, with anyone who wants to discuss their health. So I just go over their issues and see if there's ideas that will fit with what they need. So if anyone wants to get in touch with me, there's down the bottom of the screen it says charleshenrybarton.com. You can look at my website there, and then you can contact me, and I'm happy to spend some time talking to people, because the more you spread the word, the more people can be helped. That's the idea.
Okay, so aside from that, I've actually put in some of the links for Charles's website. Like, for example, his LinkedIn is already in there. If you do want to reach out to Charles, please highlight that you got to know him from watching the show or from me, because, well, it's his personal privacy, it's his personal space, so please be respectful to him. So aside from that, if you are ever interested on trying out to do a podcast like what I'm doing now, you can click the link for StreamYard. It's located on the description box also. You can get $10 off for your first try. Or if you're interested to come up with like a title card, like what I did usually before my show begins, there's also the link to Canva. There's also a promo code for that. So aside from all that, I am actually working on a new article with partnership with one of my past guests, Mr. Marjan El Salon. So this is actually going to be something of third culture kids, and it is called Two Sides of the Coin. So it is finishing up, and once it's done, I will be posting it. So aside from that, thank you so much, Charles, for your time.